Okay, now the machine is cooperating. It had sort of frozen in the midst of several attempts at this recording, so I'm happy that it's cooperating now. Hopefully it continues. If it does freeze, just know that mostly what I want to do with this video is explain to you how to do number 7 and 8. All of the rest of these skills, we have practiced enough that you should be able to do them accurately and well if you are careful. But 7 and 8, I do need to talk you through a bit. So that is where I will start, just in case this video freezes up again. What do you need to do with number 7? Well, this idea, anytime that you see these are called brackets and the parentheses, that means you're going to have to figure out which part of the problem to do first and then what to do next and so on. So this requires you to know what are called the order of operations. It's preparing you for algebra very, very much. The order of operations that you need to do, there's a little saying that helps you to remember them. Now, very often people will use, "Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally," but because of the book we are reading, I like to use, "Please excuse my dear Anne Shirley." Now, another way to think of them, the A and the S and the M and the D go together. But what you do first always is parentheses. And you do the part of the parentheses that's the most on the inside. So this part gets done first, and then whatever is outside. So parentheses are first. Exponents, those flying numbers, those get done second. Multiplying and dividing happens from left to right in order. So as you go from left to right, if you see a times sign, you have to do the two numbers on either side. If you see a divide sign, you have to do the two numbers on either side. Do you see add or subtract? You skip those. They wait until the end. Adding and subtracting happens again from left to right in order. So it doesn't matter if there's adding first or if there's subtracting that you come across. As you start on the left side and move to the right, you do those steps. So if we apply that to what is up here, the first thing we need is to find the most inside of the parentheses. So these brackets are like parentheses, but if we look inside them, there is another set all the way inside. This is the first step that we must do. So 8 minus 3 is 5. Once we've done that step, the parentheses that are around it disappear. So now we have these outside brackets, and we do 5 plus 5 times 5. Now we still must use the order of operations inside the parentheses. So we have to do what's inside the parentheses, but do we do 5 plus 5, the adding first? No, we can't. We must do multiplying or dividing first. So the next step we have to do is 5 times 5, which is 25. What are we going to do to this 5 and the 25? Well, there is the sign between them. We must add them. So now we are left with 5 plus 25 inside these brackets. 5 plus 25 is 30. So that takes care of everything inside the parentheses. And at this point, it's a good idea to rewrite the problem. So this problem is 3 squared times 30 minus 2. Everything else that we just did was inside the parentheses. So 3 squared times 30 minus 2. No parentheses left. Any exponents? Right here, 3 squared. 3 squared does not mean 3 times 2. 3 squared means there are 2 blanks. There's a times sign in between it, and in both blanks, I must have a 3. So to get rid of this exponent, I just do 3 times 3, which is 9. So the exponent is gone. I rewrite the problem as 9 times 30 minus 2. Can I do 9 times 30 first, or do I have to do 30 minus 2? Well, please excuse my dear. Multiplying and dividing must be done next. So I must say 9 times 30. 9 times 30 is 270. 9 times 3 is 27, and there's 1 0. Then I take away 2. If you don't know how to look at that and say the answer, you do it off to the side. You borrow. 10 minus 2 is 8, 6, and 2. 268 is the final answer to this whole string of mathematics. It's actually kind of fun, but you really do have to be sure you remember. Please excuse my dear Anne Shirley. And you have to remember to find the insidemost part of the parentheses. This very often shows up on tests for 5th grade skills. This is one that we are putting off until the end of the year because this has been such a crazy year. So we are going to make sure that you are really secure in your knowledge of what to do with fractions before we backtrack and do this. But it is important to me that I introduce it to you so that you have a chance to start practicing it, even if we don't get a chance to really learn well and do a lot of work with it. All right, number 8. A numeric expression to match, subtract 4 from the product of 10 squared and 5. This is similar to what we just did, but it starts with words and you have to come up with this numeric expression. Subtract 4 from, which means you're going to have something in front of it to take 4 away. So subtract 4 from is the end. What are we subtracting it from? The product of, which means multiplying, 10 squared, ooh, that means 10 with a flying 2, and 5. So I'm going to multiply what 2 amounts? 10 squared and 5. 10 squared and 5. I get that product and I need to take 4 away from it. How do I make sure I'm taking 4 away from this whole operation? I use parentheses to say all this stuff goes together and then I take 4 away from it. You should have correct answers for number 7 and number 8. You might not be copying down exactly what I have, but what you write for number 7 does need to show me that you have found the inside of the parentheses. You simplified that part, then you did 5 times 5, then you added the 25 to the 5, and you came up with an amount inside the parentheses. I need to see that you realized 3 squared times 30 minus 2 became your new problem. I need to see that you know how to get 3 squared. You must write out this multiplication of 3 times 3 to show that it substitutes for 3 squared. Then you need to show that it's going to be multiplied times 30 minus 2. Come up with your final answer and circle your final answer. This one, I would like you to mark the words here just as I did. The from product means you're going to multiply. 10 squared means 10 to the flying 2. And the 5 is another number that you need to include. Once you have that marked out, you need to write the numeric expression. You do not solve it. Anytime it just says write a numeric expression, You do not want one answer like 268. You just want to write out the operations it would take to get the answer. Now that this is still working, I'll go back real quick and talk you through the rest of these. You must show all of your work and you must rewrite 1 through 6. So we are subtracting and there is a decimal in one problem. We're not multiplying. We learned at the beginning of the year the rules, what you must do when you add or subtract, and there are decimals involved. I am not going to remind you of that today. I'm just going to point out that you must follow that rule, which is why you have to rewrite these problems before you get your final answer. I would ask that you write your final answer over here so that I can find it more easily, but I also want to see your work. Number 4 does not necessarily need work. That's why there's not much space. Number 5, I would suggest you write number 5 out. Remember, the first number gets written and then you put the divided by sign over top of it, and then the second number is the divisor. Number 6, we've practiced this. Now you have to put it in play. We are no longer adding or subtracting. So when you multiply, you absolutely can change the order around. Remember, this one only has 2 digits. This factor has 3 digits. When you multiply, you put the factor with the most digits on top. Be careful, that will take a lot of work. Number 7 will as well. We have decimals in the divisor and the dividend, so you will need to show me that you know how to do that. You also are highly likely, since the dividend is an odd number and yet you're dividing by 2, it is highly likely that in the dividend you will need to annex a 0 on the end after the decimal so that you can come out with just a decimal answer. You may not have a remainder for number 7. No remainders when you divide and have decimals. Number 9, round it to the nearest hundredth. Just a reminder, TH means you are on this side of the decimal, so every part of the whole number side must stay the same and it must stay in your answer. So the first step you need to do for your answer is write 76,689. Then you're going to have to decide what you do to round. One other quick little reminder. Let's say you have been asked to round to the nearest thousandth. The last place that you may have any sort of a digit, including a 0, is in the thousandth place. Now the reason I'm showing you thousandth is because this asks for hundredth, and I don't want to show you the exact one and remind you of the exact thing it's asking. But that's a reminder. When you are rounding in the decimal places, you do not put zeros as placeholders. 10 and 11. To write 2/20th as a decimal, take your 2, divide it by 20. But I can't. Yes, you can. Same thing for 3/6. 3 divided by 6. But I can't. Yes, you can. Besides, this is what we're after. We're after the decimal equivalent for those fractions, and this is the way that you get a decimal. All right, that should help you do this fairly well, but do be careful, because what you don't get correct today, you will be redoing tomorrow. When you've got it done, send me the photograph, please, and thank you.